All right, so welcome to day 2 with Dance Debut and our online retreat for dancers and teachers. And we're hoping that you've had the opportunity to review some of the postings from yesterday. I uploaded a couple more videos. Anna Maria and I this morning were chatting away, and there's another interview that I will share with the work that she does with the fascia. So there's lots of interesting pieces coming in as we're going along. So I hope you're able to keep checking back to Dance Debut's Facebook page. You can check out the website at dancedebut.com, or you can find YouTube, and everything is on a playlist there specifically for this event. And then you can peruse through the rest of the videos as well if you like. So welcome to everybody that's here live. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate your participation. And today, my topic is about emotions. And one of the things for everybody, oop, sound came through. I think, Vikram, you're trying to sort out sound there. So I've got Vikram twice. Okay. All right. So everybody has emotions going on in their day all day long, and we're all affected by what they do with our body and how they're interpreted within our body or stored. And today I wanted to explore what that means in the dance world. It'll be what happens in every day as well, but I want to talk a little bit more about in the dance world and how emotions can affect the way we function, and also how the kinds of things we're performing with can affect what happens with emotions, and then what happens with our muscles and our systems. I posted a video that I did with MacKenzie Greenwell yesterday. That post went up this morning, and we just talked a little bit about navigating life in the dance studio since COVID and how that changes the approach we take, but also the gentleness with which we need to have for ourselves and also for our students, because as they come into a room that's cordoned off with tape and they're told to stand in a square and then don't touch anybody, and maybe we've got masks on, maybe we can play with props, maybe we can't because we don't want to share any germs. That can be pretty scary to navigate. And even if we're teenagers or adults in that community and we think, oh yeah, it's not really a big deal, I can handle it, our body may not be feeling the same way. And at a subconscious level, we can have those emotions coming in and changing how we're going to function and how our performance is going to go. And so I just want to bring awareness to how that works. Okay, so to dive in, I always start off with a balance. I have a goal in mind, and you can add to this goal anything that is extra that you'd like to have happen for you today. My goal each day as I come across this project is to advance the development of your skills and your comfort with using these tools in your profession or in your practice as a dancer or a person. And so the balance for today I would like to do is releasing the emotional baggage of COVID to open new possibilities and awareness for the movement arts. And I'm calling it movement arts because it envelopes a whole bunch more people, I think. So if everybody's okay with that, you can add anything onto the goal that you like. But what I thought I would do is the Meridian Sweeps that I shared yesterday. And I will do it the way I did it yesterday. And then I'm going to dive into them a little bit deeper. So if you want to just back up from wherever you are, find an open space. I'm just going to move my computer around so you can see me a little bit easier. And hopefully I got most of my body in here and my head. It's just Zoom has a different view than what I get when I'm on Facebook. Okay, here we are. All right, and so what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to add the dance moves that I did yesterday, but I'll walk you through all of the movements, okay? So the hands are coming down in front, and we're going to come up the front of the body, and then we're going to take the hands and go down the center of the body, come up behind, over the top, down to the front of the top lip, and then I want you to turn your hands like you're looking in the mirror, And I want you to just think about the confidence and the comfort that you have in moving as a dancer or as a person, despite the challenges of COVID, and then bring that down. So I'm just bringing that goal in. So we're going to come up the front, down the middle, up the back, over the top, looking into the mirror. I easily and joyfully change the way I move. Comes back down, up the front, down, up the back, over the top, looking into the mirror. This time you can say, I love you. And we'll put a nice big heart in it to finish it off and sink. Right, so that's central and governing. Then we're going to go around the cheek from the cheekbone. So we go around the cheek, down the front of the body, off the toes. You're going to come back in, up to the armpit, down by your ribs on the side. Stomach and spleen. Your hand's going to go out, underneath, heart, small intestine, and we're going to look away. We go underneath and look away, heart and small intestine. Perfect. Now we're going to go over the top of the head, down the spine, all the way to the tailbone. From the shoulders, down the sides of both sides of the back, under the legs, under the feet, come all the way back in, K27, the collarbone. Bladder, kidney. Hand comes out in front this time. We go underneath, circulation, over the top, corner of your eyebrow, triple warmer. Other hand goes underneath, over the top, corner of the eyebrow for triple warmer. And the last set, you're coming into the cheeks, so come a little closer. So we're going to go in front of the ear, back, over the ear, back. Around down the side of the head, down the side of the body, out the feet, comes back into your ribs, and then it comes around in front towards the belly button. So that's gallbladder, liver. Now I take my hand and I take it across, and then the other hand goes underneath. And we have lung to thumb, pointer finger, and I'm going to pull that arm all the way across and pull like a bow and arrow, large intestine. So we have across with the other hand, underneath, pointer finger all the way around, and pull. If I'm working with little people, then we usually say, I got this. All right, so that's the Meridian Sweep. And what we've done is we've energetically connected as a group, so we're all on the same page for the same goal. And to get us all started, that also has brought the whole body up, so all the systems are functioning, and hopefully all the muscles are working as we want them to work. So if you want to come back to a comfortable spot, I'm just going to bring my camera around and explain a little bit more about the muscles and the meridians. I touched on it yesterday. I have handouts on Dance Debut's website, so dancedebut.com, and I have under resources and articles a dedicated page just for this event, and I keep adding a link to more resources. So the resource I shared with you yesterday was a little sheet that looks like this, and what it has on it is on one side it has the element and the meridians, so the electrical system, and on the other side it has the muscles that are linked to that electrical system. So then you have all that information. For those people that want to know more and wish to dive into the big book, I'm using Touch for Health information. This book is by Dr. John Thie, who is a chiropractor. And what he did is he took the work of Dr. George Goodhart, who found the link between the muscles and the meridians that hadn't actually been documented before, and creating then the system of what we can use every day to help balance our body. So George Goodhart was the instigator and John Thie was the lucky person who got to write it all out. Okay, so what I want to share with you is how some of the muscles link up. So let's go to central system. That was from, I'm just going to back up a little bit. So that was from the pubic bone to the bottom lip, which is central system. It's a line that comes up the front. It is linked to supraspinatus. Supraspinatus is responsible for your arm being able to do this action. And what I can do is I can shut that muscle off and I can turn it back on just by tracing that line, which is so simple. So we can try this. Yesterday we used the quad muscle to do it. Today I thought we could try using an arm. And what we're going to do is with muscle monitoring, we're holding the arm at its outmost position for where the muscle is going to extend. And we just put a little tiny bit of pressure. It's less than 2 pounds, so it's not very much pressure at all. And you just see if your arm will hold. Just when you put your finger there, can the arm hold there? And it seems obvious. Well, it's an arm, it should be able to do that. It's all good. So now, if I go like that, and it holds, what I want you to do is just go from your chin, trace down the front of your body, and then go back and see what happens to your arm. Okay, now if you go back up the body and check in with that arm, it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so here I trace down the system and shut it off, and immediately the arm responds. I bring the system back up, and the arm responds. Okay, that is a valuable piece of information because depending on what's happening with our emotions, different muscles can turn on and off in the body without us being aware. So yesterday we were working with the quad muscle, and the quads are related to the stomach meridian. The stomach is where you process emotion. So very often, you know, you say, I have a gut feeling, or I have an upset stomach. I can't eat because I'm too worried about whatever's going on. And that stomach muscle will then affect the muscles related to it. So on the little chart that you have, if I look at stomach, the muscles, sorry, it was quads were small intestine. Sorry, that's what we did yesterday. Quads were small intestine. Sorry. Stomach meridian, that's where I wanted to focus. So the stomach meridian is related to pec major clavicular. So we have in here. We have levator scapula, okay, which is going to be along the side. We have neck muscles, both front and back. And we have brachioradialis. So now, if you think about the neck muscles, this was one that happened on the weekend. Someone said, oh, my neck is so tight and it's just so stiff. It's related to the stomach meridian. They actually they ate something that did not digest well. And all it took was them eating that food that was going to bother them, and the neck muscles immediately clenched and they went into overactive mode. Okay, so let's play with this a little bit, and let's go with, I'll trace the meridian so you can remember what it looks like. I'm just going to bring you around again. So I've got a little bit more room. Okay, so it's going to go around the cheek, starts right at the cheekbone here. It goes around the face, and then it goes down the front of the body. And it does jet in and out, but I'm just going to trace straight down. We can do that with our intention. And then it's going to go right off the feet. Okay, so that's the stomach meridian. Stomach meridian is related to those neck muscles. So if I wanted to check in with my neck, and again, you're using just 2 pounds, less than 2 pounds of pressure, so just a little tiny bit of pressure. So I'm going to just take my head forward, and I'm just going to put a little pressure, and my neck is going to hold. And then I can take my head back, put a little bit of pressure. And we're not checking muscle strength. We're checking what is happening electrically in the system, okay? And those are going to hold at the moment because we just traced stomach meridian, so it's happy at the moment. But let's trace it backwards. So go down to your feet and come up the front of the body, okay? So you're going to trace up the front of the body. And then this is going to go up all the way around and finish at your cheekbone. So we went backwards. So now if I go to my head and put my hand there, there's no integrity right at the beginning of that. If I go back, it's off there as well. Okay? So we could trace and go back down, but let's not. Let's just think about, with stomach, the emotions are sympathy and empathy. So let's just give ourselves a little TLC. Pass yourself some love, okay? And as you're passing yourself that love, just think about no matter what I have done today, everything is good. I'm in the right place at the right time, doing everything I need to be doing. Okay? And just take that in, okay? And then go back to your head and see now if it will hold in its position. Did that work? Yeah? Okay. Vikram, was that okay for you? Okay. So you can see how easy it could be to have muscles turning on and off. And how you feel is going to make a big difference in how you're going to function and work. Okay? So let's take it into a movement exploration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to small intestine and quads this time. Okay? And so I'm going to just bring my bench around. If you have something to sit on, what we're going to be doing is going from seated to standing. Okay? So if you have a space that you can do that in. All right? And I just want you to think about all the care you gave yourself today so far so that you could be optimum to be able to come and be in this space and to be able to learn, okay? And what that feels like. And then what I want you to do is just stand up. Okay, notice what that felt like. And then with that same care and love, just have a seat. Okay, so now imagine heart and small intestine, so we're thinking about the quads, is love, joy, and hate. So just imagine how you ended up spending most of your day going through your emails and you have too much stuff in the inbox and you didn't respond to all the people that were asking things of you. And you feel like you didn't quite get to where you wanted to be today. So just imagine that. And imagine how, in the frame reference of hate, how you hate that inbox that keeps filling up on you. And then I want you to stand up. Okay. And then with that same feeling, sit down. Okay, did that feel different than the last time? Okay, little bit heavier. Almost when you went to sit down, it was like a, oh, instead of a lift to sit. Okay, so just being through that filter changed the way we're functioning. So now what I'd like to do is I would like to explore those quads a little bit more. And so what I'm going to do is have you do, this comes from Tai Chi, I'm just going to have you do a Danyu. So what happens is our hands go up like this, and then they come back. And this beautiful action actually pulls on all the energy lines in the body and brings us into a flow. Very simple. So what I'm going to have you do is just make sure your ankles underneath your knees, and your ankles are pulled back just slightly from your knees, so you have enough movement. And what we're going to do is we're going to just fall forward into our feet and then push into your feet to come back. Okay, and fall into your feet and push into your feet to come back. Okay, so we've got that. So now I'm going to play a little bit with the muscle. So here's your quad. What I want you to do is push from the outside of the muscle to the inside. And we're going into the belly of the muscle, working with the muscle fiber. And we're just going to push in. And we're going to do it on the other side as well. Okay. And now what I want you to do is with your hands, you're going to sweep forward like we did, but you're going to go to the standing position. So you're going to go push into the feet and come up. Okay. And notice what that felt like. And then sit back down. Okay. Now we're going to go into the belly of the muscle and pull apart. We'll do the same on the other side. So in the center, and we'll pull apart. Okay. And now what I want you to do is that same action. The hand's going to go forward and then stand up. Okay. And then sit down. Beautiful. Did that feel a little bit different? Okay. So when we went in, we actually shut the quad muscle off. When we pulled out, we turned the muscle on. It changes the movement action. So now you know we can manipulate it, but we also, with our intention and our emotions, we can also put that into perspective, and it can change the way we function. Okay, so let's add one more. So let's add joy. So if you think about all the things about movement that you absolutely adore and love, and how it feels to move completely freely. What I want you to do then is just take that same movement and stand up. And then with that same joy, sit down. Okay. Can you feel the lightness that comes with joy? And then can you feel the lift that happens in the center of your body when you have joy? Okay, so now you're in the position where the boss comes in, or you're at the dance class and the teacher comes in and everything needs to happen right now. Hurry up, you should have been practicing a little bit more. How come you didn't get your work done? Why aren't you ready yet? And then stand up and see how that feels. Okay, and the same. They're talking to you, there's some aggression, they're angry, why aren't you ready? Let's get going, let's go going, hurry, quick, quick, and sit back down. It's fun watching everybody do it because you can see this lightness lift up, and then another place you can see that, oh, when people go to sit down and you can see the clunk as you get to the chair. Just changing the attitudes that much changes the function that much. There's just so much that we can explore and be a part of. So I'm going to come a little bit closer to you, and I'm just going to move around here so I can get next to my notes. And all right, be a little bit closer to you. All right. So I hope that helps to illustrate a couple of ways where the emotions link up to the muscles and the organs. So the exciting part about working in the Touch for Health material is understanding how those emotions link up to a particular element. So in the elements, I did small intestine, heart and small intestine are on the fire element, which is love, joy, and hate as the basic emotions. And I talked about the neck muscles as part of the stomach meridian. Stomach meridian is part of the earth element, and that has to do with empathy and sympathy as their base emotions. So we can kind of navigate through the dance world by thinking about how those emotions appear and disappear, but may be there to support us, maybe not there to support us. And then filter that we use to navigate with is really important. The perspective we have as we come into a project, or the perspective we have before we go into performance, that's all going to be important. And as we're thinking about COVID, and we're thinking about where does that take us, even just to go outside or to the grocery store and to be well enough at the grocery store that you're not going to run into somebody or pick up a germ or whatever. If we're in a place of fear as we do that, fear and anxiety, those sit on the wood element, and you can have so much, sorry, fear and anxiety is on the water element. I was thinking of anger, resentment. The resentment part was, I guess, jumping out. That's wood element. So water element is anxiety and fear. And as soon as we have those emotions kind of jumbling in, it can totally affect the way the flow of energy is going to happen in our body. Okay, so I've said a lot in there. Had you sit up, sit down, up and down. We've got a few dawn news in, which is fantastic. Are there any questions about what I've said so far? Everybody's good. Okay, so let's dive in deeper. So I wanted to touch on yesterday when Nithya was on. She reminded me of the ESRs, the emotional stress release points. I hadn't mentioned them yesterday, but they're really important to what we're talking about today. So if you take your fingertips and you hold on really lightly on your forehead, emotional stress release is calming the mind, calming the conscious mind down, and it allows for you to process thoughts. So if you had a really busy day, you haven't had a chance to process everything that you've done, just sitting and doing this can be very helpful. If you learned a new choreography, you've tried a new technique, this is a great way to just let it be processed. You may notice your breathing will change, might go a little bit deeper, the belly breath might appear. And usually when everything is ready, there's a nice big sigh, or there's a change in your breath that happens. And that's how you know the body's processed. You can let that go. If I have trouble sleeping, I often will put my hand this way, other hand back here, and that'll help me to just calm to go to sleep. If my husband is not going to sleep, I've taken my hand and put it on his forehead. And usually that's been enough to calm him so he could go to sleep. So that's been another way I've used it. You'll often see people when they have an exam or something they have to do, you'll see them do this. And that's them just trying to do that calming action. And it's already there instinctively. Anna Marie, you were going to say something?
Yeah, actually in the fascia therapy, when you're in the treatment and when the fascia finally releases, it's a big sigh exactly like this. You go,
beautiful.
Yeah, connecting
and
methods.
My thought is, there's a couple of thoughts happening. Thinking about those ESRs, if you were doing your fascia release with ESRs, there would be a change in how the body was able to process that easier, I guess would be the best way to say that. Yeah. And in therapeutic touch and raising bioenergetic awareness, we have where we work in groups of 3s or 4s, and one person is usually kind of holding the space while everything is happening. So to have somebody to be able to put fingertips on the person's forehead who's having that fascia release happening could be valuable. Yeah.
I'll try that with my fascia therapist the next time.
I just, well, there's lots of ways to explore, but yeah, it would be interesting to see if that helps, especially for somebody who's really holding on tight and it's hard to let go, and if they're not breathing, being able to get that in there. And I know you're working on breath as they're doing that, but sometimes still there's that back brain that wants to hold on. It's our survival mechanism and it wants to be there. But it's nice to be able to bring it to the foreground, and the body can say, it's okay. don't have to save you. You're not being chased by the tiger. So we can let everything go. Yeah. Thanks, Anna Marie. Anybody else? Nope. You're all good. Okay. So let's move from ESRs then. And what I wanted to bring up was a little bit to do with posture. How you're sitting most of the day will be an indication of emotionally where you're at. Now, when you sit in front of a beautiful computer, you have the electrical interaction that's going to happen with your body. And one of the places that gets affected is this poor old neck, which tells you that the stomach meridian is really affected by the electronics. Other parts will be affected too, but you'll notice it in the neck. So if you start to notice that you start doing this and you're migrating in, it's the body not energetically being sustained and it's collapsing. That's your indicator. We often think of it as, I'd like to see closer, you're focused on something. But if you take a moment, you sit back and you go, just a minute, where is straight? And bring yourself back. You can feel that neck come back into position. So if you pay attention to what your posture is doing, you can learn a lot about where you are emotionally. One of the things when we're standing up and sitting down, and that anger and that somebody's pushing at you, and how when you sat down, it was like, oh, the weight of the world was with you when you sat down. If you can change that to, oh, that person has a nice objective in mind this morning, that's fantastic. I'm going to try and meet that objective, and I'm going to do it with grace and with a smile on my face. And when you sit down, you can actually be suspended. You can hold the posture. You can be where you want to be. So if you start to kind of pay attention to where things shift a little bit, you can start to realize where your emotions may be moving over, how you're feeling, and then how you can pull yourself back out of that using your posture. There are some photographs that have been done, and I don't know where the work comes from. I learned it from Dr. Sheldon Deal, who is a naturopath, chiropractor. He's known as applied kinesiology in the States. Again, in Canada, that would be Bioenergetic Awareness. But he has some photographs that he took of different postures that people will hold, and that will tell you what they're feeling and what the systems are doing. So if they cross their arms, or they always cross one leg over the other, they hold their hands under their chin. You see me do this sometimes when I'm when I'm talking on the computer. I think part of that is my emotional neck release piece of, let me hold that neck instead of taking myself back to a sitting up position. But it's really interesting how those positions can show up and tell us a story, but also the postures we use all day long, how they can put us into those emotional pieces. So I'm just planting that seed so you can start to play with it a little bit. And if that's of interest to you, I can find that resource for you afterwards. Okay, so let's move over to the spine. And that was where I was thinking about your posture and what it's telling you. I have posted for you under the handouts the 20 spiritual points and spine locations on the way the joints resonate. And so it's a little chart, and I'm not sure how much you'll be able to see there, but each of the columns, one is where the spine location is. The other is the chakra or spiritual point along the spine. The spiritual connection it has, and that just means following your life purpose. So some of the topics are harmony, will and freedom, abundance, clarity, creation, alignment. Right at the base of the neck is peace. So if you spend a lot of time stressing that out, then peace may not find you. Stress may find you, and bringing that neck back up can actually bring a calmness just by how you change that cervical 7. The next category is the emotional integration. So something like, a lot of people will get lower back pain, and lower back pain, you can be looking at thoracic 12, which is kind of in the arch of the back. That is the balance between yin and yang, balance of polarities. And if we're not balanced in our life, energy that flows in, energy that flows out, balancing our emotions, then we can have the emotions of rage, hate, or just being pissed off and having an emotional reaction. And it shows up in that lower spine. And people will say, oh, my lower back is so tight. And it can be because you experienced something and you just put it over there. And now it's going to hold on. And I have in the last part of the chart, the frequency that that part of the spine is at and what note that is. Because if you decide to dive into working with sound, you actually could use a sound to allow the frequency of that space to let go and harmonize. So you could do it that way. But what we're going to do today is we're going to work with the joints, and we're going to work with the tissue, and we're going to release it in a slightly different way. Okay, but I wanted you to know what was on that page, and that's a compilation of several different resources where I put them all together so they were in one chart. But you can use that for lots of different things. So I'm going to go to another page that I put up there for you called Living for Wellness in the Dance World. And it has a chart at the top, which is David Hawkins. David Hawkins' work, he's got it written in several places. It's the scale of consciousness. I took it from the Power versus Force book, but it is in some of his other published writings as well. And he took emotions and he put them onto a scale, and roughly from 0 to 1,000. And he was able to find out the emotion, the conscious position that you are, that you're experiencing things, and your life view, how you're going to view things for experience. So I highlighted 3 on the chart. So I'm just going to give you an example. So 5th on the scale, so 0 and 1 is starting at the bottom with the lower frequencies. 17 is up near the highest part. So fear is number 5. A lot of times when we go into a new experience, we're trying to learn something new, we can be afraid of what we're going to be doing, if we're good enough, have we got it right, what is other people going to be thinking about us, is the choreographer or the teacher, you know, okay with what we're doing. So fear can be experienced there, and the emotion that'll come out is anxiety. And for a lot of dancers, they deal with a lot of anxiety issues, and they hold on to a lot of anxiety. So we take that across, the process is withdrawal. So you tend to be a little quieter, you pull back, you might not be the first one to want to share what you can do. You'll wait and see if you're going to be good enough to put yourself out there. And your life view is frightening, which means the way that you're going to be looking at things is through a lens of frightened. So I'm going to put myself in the position that's required for movement. Am I good enough? I don't know if I have this right. My knee doesn't feel right. Somebody's going to notice. I can't get down as low in the plie as the person beside me. My arm doesn't stretch the same way. I'm not going to be good enough. And the whole view that they come from is a frightened view. And that can mean how you process your information is going to be kept in that same view as well. Okay, is everybody okay with that? Okay, so if I go to the turning point is trust. If you trust yourself, if you trust the people you're with, if you trust the situation you're in, you transition to a place that's going to take you up into the higher frequencies. Trust is the emotion. The process will be release, which means you can let go of holding on to anything. It's okay. And your life view will be satisfactory, which means you don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to judge the people beside you. You can trust that you're in the right spot, doing the right thing, and someone may correct you, but it's okay because you came to be corrected. You came to learn and grow. But now your life view is coming from, you're satisfied with who you are. That's a completely different view to learn the information than being frightened. And if I go up the scale just a little bit further to love, love is, the emotion is reverence. So knowing that you're doing the best you can do, trusting everything is there, doing the best you can do, and the right people will give you the information or feedback that you need to be better. And you can go, I can be better, and I welcome those changes and critiquings coming in because they're going to support me. The process is a revelation process, which means you can go up. It's okay to be critiqued. It's okay if I have feedback. I know I'm not perfect. I know who I am and I'm confident with it. And I know that I can be better. And now you're looking at, how can I be better? By the support of the community that's around me that's going to give me feedback. And your life view becomes a benign one. So you no longer have to have the judgment in there. You no longer have to be holding on to anything. You can just be in there and experiencing it for what it is, and you can go forward. Your learning capacity off of that is going to be significantly different. Okay, so the interpretation when I use this chart depends on what kinds of things I'm sharing. There's a lot that can happen with this chart. And if you just put it into your papers or your package of things as resources that you look at, start to play with what is my filter as I'm going through this particular experience. Can I change my filter? Can I change my reaction? And can I place myself above trust in some of those emotions that allow me to be much better than I would be if I was giving into some of those lower energies? Okay, there's a lot of writing on that document. I put some of the research pieces into it so you can work your way through it. And it's a good little document just to take some reflection time with. And so I'm going to leave you with those thoughts and you can peruse through there. So I'd like you to do now, is we need to move. So we need to stretch and we need to feel what we're moving like. So what I'd like you to do is just step away from your computer space into something you can move. And I just want you to notice where there might be tension in the body, where it might be free flowing, something might be stiff, whatever your little indicators or body talk is going to tell you. And just do a little bit of movement for the next exercise. I'm feeling like I could use some Meridian sweeps. Okay. All right. So just notice what your lower back feels like, shoulders, maybe your neck, range of motion on the head. And if you were in a stretch, just notice what that feels like through the arm, through the body. And if you want to reach down to touch your toes, you don't need to touch your toes. Just see what it feels like to go down to touch your toes. Okay. And all we want to know is what does it feel like at the moment? Perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the Innate Matrix Memory. And this is a tool that I brought in. If you want to sit for a moment, we'll be up and down, but if you want to sit for a moment, just bring the paper into focus. The tools from this, I originally learned from Dr. Sheldon Deal, and he presented only one tool at a time. So it took me a while to put all the pieces together, but then I also linked up some of my other knowledge. So in Dr. Sheldon Deal's work, he calls it injury recall technique. And the additions that I put in and the protocol I put in place, I put it under the title of Innate Matrix Memory. But I do want to pay homage to those people who came before, who have used this technique. I've also adapted it because dancers on the dance floor don't have time to lie down on a massage table and have somebody pull on their foot to check and see how they're doing. So everything always has to be adjusted for something quick that you can use in the studio and be able to carry on with what you're doing. Okay, so what we did was we just did an initial reflection, which is at the start of that handout. We checked for flexibility, ease of movement, any pains, and touching the toes is a good one because most people know how they feel as they go down to touch their toes, especially that first stretch. So now what I want you to consider is that there's a deeper assessment you can do on this page. I'm not going to dive into that because I want to spend time on the technique because that's most important for the dancer. But you definitely could dive deeper if you wished. So I'm going to go to is the protocol, which is on page 2. And we're going to just find out if there's any emotion that is blocked in some tissue. So think about one of the spots that you moved that might have been tight. So for me, right now, turning my neck, I know I have a vertebra that's not quite in the right spot. So I can definitely feel my neck. So if I turn, I could give it a pain scale piece, which is like about a 6 out of 10. So you might have something that you could scale from 0 to 10. 10 would be my worst. So I'm at about a 6. You might just notice it by it's tight. And that might be just how you notice it. It's like, oh, it just doesn't want to move. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to do the first 3 pieces on the protocol. The matrix release is the first one. And we're going to take the fingers into cones and put those cones by your jaw. And then we're going to just take the head and we're just going to tilt it forward and back up to straight. And we do that 3 times. By the time I got to number 3, there was a snap in my neck.
Their eyes open.
Eyes are open, yes. Thank you, Tanya. Okay. Making the cone is this in Tai Chi. We do this action in Tai Chi. And the cone actually is an energy exchanger. So you can take energy and you can direct it somewhere, or you can pull energy into it. What we're doing right here is we're creating that into the jaw, which goes into the sphenoid in here, and we're changing the way the whole tissue is working, okay? By pulling on the back of the neck, we're pulling the muscles as they insert into the skull, and that is linking up to the amygdala emotions, your fight and flight or your survival emotions. That's what we're linking up to when we pull on the back of the neck. So it's that pull forward that gives that little bit of tension, and then the release. That's the important part. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, you take 2 fingers and put it at the back of the head, governing 20. Okay, and then you're just going to nod your head forward 3 more times. All right, that's a cranial release. So that's taking the bones and the skull and just allowing them to loosen by doing that one, okay? And then number 3 is hold on to the area that was your focus, where your problem was, okay? So whatever it is, just put your hand on it. I'm gonna put on my neck, and then nod your head 3 more times. Okay, those are the 3 most important parts of this process. Take a feel of the tissue now, wherever it is. I'm just going to turn my neck, which gets me on one side, it gets me down to a 2. On the other side, it's still at a 6. But I've definitely had a change in what the tissue is doing. So that's telling me that there's been an emotional release in the tissue, and now the tissue is starting to soften. So as Anna Marie will do with the fascia work, this is a prelude to that work, means that the tissue can release and let go of that fight and flight before you start. Okay, did everybody get a shift of what they were experiencing? Maybe a couple head nods. Okay, we're going to keep going because I want you to experience the other pieces. So if we go to a manual release, this could be, again, with dancers, you have to work fast sometimes on the dance floor. So sometimes I do this by tapping into the wrist because it's the easiest to get at. Or I also have seniors who can't reach their feet anymore. And so they will tap into the wrist. And I'm not pointing out seniors in any way, shape, or form because some people can't get to their feet at all. But when I'm working with my one group, then that's where they're at. If you can, you're going to reach down and you're going to tap into your foot. I'm just going to push this down. Hopefully you can see. So if I bring my foot up, where the tibia comes down and the foot is, there's a little dimple right on the front, and you're just going to tap firmly into that spot. Now, if I was able to put someone on a massage table, then I could just do a little gentle pull on their foot and create that. But that isn't always possible in the dance studio. So I have just substituted to just tapping into that space. Okay. And that is going to be a manual release of the talus mortise joint. So now if you turn your, I'm going to turn my head. Now if you evaluate whatever your piece is and just see how that feels. So now I have almost nothing.
So Michelle,
when
you do the manual release, you don't put your chin to your chest?
No, we're all done with that.
Well, there you go.
Yep. All you're doing is trying to send information through that joint space.
Okay.
Looping it back up. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go into the meridians, so the electrical circuitry, and we want to link up to the one that's closest to our pain spot. So if your pain happens to be somewhere on the front of the body, you're going to tap on the stomach meridian underneath your cheekbone. And if it's along the side of the body, then you're going to go to gallbladder, which is going to be in front of the ear on the jaw. And if it's on the back side of the body, you're going to be on the bladder meridian, which is between the eyebrows. Okay, so just go to whichever. And if it's an emotion that's blocked, it doesn't have a location necessarily, you could tap above the lip and below the lip, central and governing. Okay, and you're just going to tap for about 10 seconds. Not hard, just a light, firm pressure. And what we're doing is we're linking up to the electrical line that's closest to our spot. And we're just opening it up. Beautiful. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to tap along the TS line. So you have this space on the skull that goes around the ear like this. And it's been mapped for which muscles you're actually linking to as you go around the spots. Each spot has its own muscle that it's linked to. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your right hand, and this would be the brownie swear in Canada. This is when you say your oath. So your thumb is going to go across the fourth and the pinky finger, and the other two are up. In Qigong, this is known as sword fingers. Okay, so it has a title there. And you're going to go from your right hand across to your left ear, and you're going to tap firmly but gently along the cheekbone, up the eye socket, over the ear to the back. And then you're going to come around to link up to the jawbone again, up the eye socket, over the top. And we're going to do that about 6 times. So this is the side for positive emotions. If we were to tap on the other side, it would be for negative emotions. And we do use that in some of our other protocols, just not this one. So people will ask, how come the left side? And that's why. Okay, so we're about halfway through. Just evaluate again with whatever your piece is, to evaluate how it's doing. Okay. All right, so that's the emotional release on that one. So now we want to go to, there's one called energy opening, which has to do with the chakras. And I'm going to leave that one because it requires a few more pieces for you to know. And I just want to leave that because, again, on the dance floor, it's not always going to be conducive to get there. So what we're going to do is go to the brain body hookup. And this comes from Body Talk. They use this as part of their protocols with other things. I'm just using 2 parts of it, which is tapping on anterior fontanelle at the front here, very gently. And then I'm going to link up here with thymus in the front. So Eden Energy Medicine has some of these points she uses. Donna Eden will use these. And some of the other energy medicine techniques also use these points. Just to give you an idea where they come from. So we do that 3 sets.
You at the front of the head?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Anterior fontanelle. Okay, so we have 3 sets of those, and that's going to be linking brain and body back up because we've moved a lot of things, changed a lot with all those taps. And so now you just want to make sure they're talking to each other. And then we're going to go to what I called generational clearing. This one's a really interesting one because it found me, this little technique. You take your thumb and put it under your chin. Now, some people they'll just hold it there. And if you were standing, yesterday I showed you how to do the body pendulum, where your body will move when it energetically has a shift. So I could stand, and I could stand here, and then all of a sudden when it's processed, I would move. That would be one way. Some people notice it as the thumb just automatically, it just slides off. So it has this little tiny grip, and then all of a sudden when it's processed, the thumb just moves. And some people have done it where it just goes like this. And they find it just keeps going until all of a sudden the hand doesn't need to do it anymore. And what it's doing is relieving the layers, the muscle memory for a movement pattern or an emotional movement pattern that the body has locked in somewhere. And it's taking the layers of all the times it recognized that and just getting rid of it. So it's like cleaning the shelf off. Okay, so different people use it different ways, but I found it to be very valuable. Okay, so then the last part is we're going to go to the systems hookup. And this one we used when we did switches yesterday. And it's just taking the fingers like a cone and just putting it in front of the belly button. And you're just going to hold there. And if you're standing on your feet, then you may have the body shift when the energetic shift happens. And if you're sitting down, you could just hold it for 20 seconds or so. That's usually about enough. And what that is doing is linking up the 5 elements, which link to all the meridians. And it's just bringing them back into the focus. Okay. All right, so now if you go back to whatever it was you used as your gauge. I'm going to turn my head and see. I'm not 100%, but I am significantly better. Okay, good. All right. So what we did is we changed the emotional impact on the tissue. If we didn't do that first and we just dove into movement, that emotional impact would be locked in and we would be restricted by the tension that's on the tissue, but we let that go. That's how much emotion was within our movement pattern. And now you can dive into whatever else you want to dive into in order to make changes in the tissue, but you no longer have that fight or flight survival emotional instinct gripping the tissue, trying to keep you safe. And that's what we shifted. Okay, so if you go to your movement overall, because we chose where we had a pain spot or a hindrance. So if you just go back to your stretching, maybe touching your toes, see how it feels to touch or reach down? I can now get to the floor. Before it was, you know, like an inch, about an inch or two above the floor, and now it's down so my knuckles are on the floor. It's a significant shift in tissue and in your function. Beautiful. All right. And as you're sitting there now, just notice what your posture is doing. Okay. And then if you check into how do you feel, what filter might you be using from David Hawkins' scale of consciousness? Now, you know, you might have been, oh, what is she going to do? Focus kind of like this, but now you're just, okay, here I am. So your filter is going to be a little bit different, what you're going to be looking through as you go into your experiences. Okay. There's a lot of information there. Any feedback or comments that can help share things? Go ahead, Vikram.
Like when I started, I feel very tired, but after doing this, like my body is, I'm feeling very light right now.
Beautiful.
And like when I start, I have a pain like in my back and neck. Even when I move my hands, so I feeling in my shoulders. But now it's like I'm feeling very light.
Sweet. Awesome. And it's so cool to know it's an emotional shift, right?
Yes.
Because we always go to structure. Oh, I need to move a little bit more. I need to do more warm-ups, or maybe I need to do more weightlifting, or it's always structure. But then to know that emotionally, look what you can do. And you don't have to talk about it. You can just let it go, which is also nice. Yeah. Okay. You need to run, Tanya? Thanks for being here.
Well, actually, I was waving at Aurea.
Oh,
It says Deidre, but it's Aurea, right? I
Orion.
was waving at her daughter because I remember from the workshop. Sorry, but yeah, I do have to go. Are we almost wrapped up?
Not quite, but thanks for being here, and you can always tune in because I'll post it later.
Yeah, so sorry. I'm working today. I just wanted to join
glad
for
you're here.
most of it, but I really do need to get back to work. So
And
I
for those
send
that
you
are
all.
here, Tanya is going to be sharing some of her skills with us as well. So you'll see postings go up with her work because she's an amazing artist and counselor. Thanks, Tanya.
So love to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Anybody else that wants to comment what they noticed?
It's more open.
Paramalam, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. While starting, I had pain in the back, in the middle of the spine. Now I'm very much free and I feel very light. My body is light.
Awesome. Good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good. You're welcome. Anna Marie?
Much more open. All the stiffness is gone from the neck, and you will see on the video where I show the gymnastic sensorial movement that my head is kind of tilting like this a lot. I looked at that and I said, that's not normal. But I mean, it was so stiff, and that's gone, and everything feels bigger in every way, just more open.
Beautiful. Good. Good. Oria?
When I started, my head was tilted like that, but that's not the one I picked up on. It was my lower back, just a little bit tired. And now I'm light and my head is straight.
And that was the byproduct. How's your lower?
Yeah. Yeah.
How's the lower?
Okay. Good. Good. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And did you have anything you wanted to share?
Oh, she just came down to tell me I was having a grilled cheese for lunch.
Sorry, I had to, it always takes a moment to unmute.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, it's interesting. I actually did a really, really challenging hike on Sunday. So today, of course, is the day that everything is really tight and stiff. And I carried a pack, so I could definitely feel it in my shoulders, neck to shoulder. And the tissue is certainly softer after going through this process. And I can turn my head from side to side, you know, all the way to the shoulder now, where that wasn't happening before.
Beautiful.
So yeah, it's very interesting to see good results like that.
Great. Good.
Thanks.
Good. So one of the things that, like I was saying, sometimes we just look at structure and we're always focused on what's happening with structure. And if we're not looking there, very often we're looking at nutrition. I should have eaten better. Maybe I shouldn't have had this. You know, I should add some more water, which is important. But our feeling, I don't want to use feelings, our experiences in our body don't always reflect to just those pieces. So in bioenergetic awareness, we're looking at, is it structural? Is it chemical? Are we reacting to the soaps, detergents, lotions we put on us? There can be lots of other things that can be affecting us. So that would be chemical. It could be nutritional. It could be mental. So it could be just the thoughts we have, right? That even just holding on to the thought, I'm not good enough, or, you know, I'm not worthy of being in the company at the moment, or those little phrases that somebody told us once and kind of stick in our heads. So that would be mental. And then you have emotional. So what kind of lens are you looking through? How are you feeling? What is the experience you're having at the moment? And then there is spiritual. Because a lot of times, before COVID, we've had a lot of time to reflect. Well, we've been in isolation. But prior to that, we're doing a lot of running and we're trying to keep up with all the stuff that we're working on. And sometimes we kind of get off our path of where we wanted to be going. And we're now off doing other things, but we lost what truly was feeding our soul. And so to be able to bring ourselves back on path, that would be the spiritual part. Are you following your purpose? Are you fulfilling the reasons you want to be doing things? And sometimes we get on the treadmill and we lose track. And I know being in isolation has allowed us some time to be reflective, and some people have taken advantage of that. But if you haven't, then you could be trying to fix something structurally. And if you're not following your life's purpose, your body could be going, yeah, you can try to fix me, but you're not listening. I don't want you going in this direction. I want you going this direction. That's what you said you wanted. And so then you don't have any change happen. You can get a little bit of change. It's like when someone has a massage and they go, I feel so much better. And then 2 days later, like everything's stiffened back up again because they structurally worked on it, but they might not have worked in the right area. So we can check in with the body and find out what is it that needs attention and then provide the attention it needs instead of just going to the stuff we do know. Okay, so that gives you a little bit different perspective. Go ahead, Anna Marie.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good.
Candace Peff, I don't know whether you know her, she wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion. You know it, yeah. And she proves, I mean, she was a scientist, she didn't want to hear about feelings at all, but she proves that on a cellular level, our reactions are always emotional, and the brain always functions on this emotional background music.
Yes.
So that's how important it actually is to go with the emotions first before you can do anything that's structural.
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, thank you. So in the dance studio setting, if you're thinking about you're standing on your feet and you have to be able to react to something and you notice, uh-oh, I've just moved my arm and this is not going to be good because I've got another 30 minutes that we're going to be doing these exercises and this arm isn't functioning quite right. If you just take a few moments to step over to the side and run through the protocols, you might not have time to run through all of them, which is okay, because you can always go back later, but you certainly can do the first 3. That was the cone, nod your head, fingers at the top, nod your head, and then hold the spot, nod your head. Even if you could do that much over on the side, you at least can release some of the emotion that's in there, and that'll allow the tissue to let go, and then you'll be able to go back and do what you need to do. For people that have an injury, so they're busy working, doing their thing, and then all of a sudden they roll their ankle. The first thing to do, run that protocol. Run those, even if it's the first 3. And that will release the emotion that's going to pocket into the tissue of the experience. And then you don't have it going into the tissue. You can always go back later, and you can, especially getting up to the place where you're releasing the layers, because then you can go back, because as you know, if you roll your ankle, chances are you're going to roll your ankle again later because the body recognizes the pattern. And as soon as you step on your foot in a certain way, it goes, oh, I remember you hurt yourself last time, whoop, and it rolls the ankle as a protective mechanism. So you can go back on your own time, step into this work, and then get up to that place, go through all the protocols, but get up to that place to remove the layers. And you can completely change how your body's going to function. Now, the caveat I need to put on this is, don't try to fix everything on the same day. I say that from experience because I like to dive into everything. What we have done is we have changed a lot in the brain and a lot in the brain-body connection. We've also changed the electrical field. The body has to figure out how it's going to move in space. It has to figure out how to come from a different lens. It has to process things. So you want to give it some time. So if you fix the neck as an example, then you don't want to go, okay, I'm going to fix my ankle and my knee and my shoulder. And oh yeah, I've got this pain on the side of my head. I'll do all those at once. Just do one. Go move, play, live life, come back and do the next one. At the most, you could do 3 in a day, but really to give it full value, do 1 and then let the body process it. But really important is to go move, because if you fix it and then sit, your body doesn't know what to do with it. You haven't educated it into the new place. So you need to go and move somehow. And it could be go for a walk, it could be dance. If it was dance, then do something that you totally love and enjoy. If you listen to Mats Melin's interview that I posted yesterday, he talks about dancing in his head to recover from his injury because he couldn't move his leg. and going to that place where the step was important. And then when he got to the place where he could move again, he started dancing his favorite step, and his injury healing process was so much faster because he chose something he loved so much. There's a freedom that comes into the tissue because it's happy doing what you're doing. And it could be going for a walk. It could be standing on the grass and then just moving and looking at the flowers, somewhere where you're allowed to be relaxed and the body can process. Okay. Everybody's all right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there possibly a time delay so that it may not take effect right away, but later on in the day?
Absolutely. Yep.
So can you ask your body that with the pendulum?
You could. Yep. So what Aurea has said is, how can I find out? So let's show you. So I'm just going to pull this around so I can stand up for you. So yesterday we did the body pendulum, and that's standing on your feet. And I'll just turn a little bit sideways and just standing really relaxed on your feet. And if you think yes, see where the body sways to. So mine's going to go forward. And if I think no, my body's going to go that way. So that's just giving me a way to show that there's energetically something different. So if I think a happy thought, I'm going to fall right into my toes immediately. Okay, that was my yes. So my happy thought goes forward. But if I think about falling off my bike, I go back. That's my no. That's my oh, not good. So as Aurea is saying, if you want to know, is this all processed or does my body need more time? You can think about what you just were working on. So I was thinking about my neck. And if it's all processed, I'm just going to see if I go to my yes. Okay, so if my neck is completely processed, the emotional part from what we did in the technique, I have a yes. Okay, does my body need more time? I have a no. So I don't need to worry about it. But you could check in with your body and see what it's going to say. So let's try it. So if you find your yes, and it could be any direction, and find your no. Okay. And now if you think about what it was that you were releasing emotionally with innate matrix memory, if it's processed, you'll have a yes. If it's not processed, you'll have a no.
Mine's not processed.
Okay. And so then you can just ask, do I need more time?
No.
You don't need more
Doesn't.
time. So then what you're looking for is you now need to do something else. You were releasing the emotion, so now you need to work on something else related to it.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where in bioenergetic wellness we would go, and again, I could use my body pendulum. And all I'm looking for is a change in energy. So I'm going to go structure, nutrition, mental, emotional, spiritual. And I move there, and it's just a movement, doesn't matter where it goes. That would tell me the next place I would need to go then would be, am I following my purpose? Or am I a little bit sidetracked? Okay. And if you wanted to write those down, it was structural, chemical, nutritional, mental, emotional, spiritual. And sometimes other pops up, which is, we didn't ask the right question. The body has something else in mind, but we don't know what it is, so other pops up. Just in case. All right. The body pendulum is fun to play with, isn't it, Vikram?
Yes.
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 It's really delightful to see a room full of dancers who are working and they stop because they know something's not quite right. And you could see them moving and they're figuring out what it is. And then they're able to provide their own self-care very quickly. And, you know, and it might be they just need a drink of water. It could be so simple. Yeah. Okay, so now that I said that, and I know what Ori is thinking, because she's going to go, okay, the water test. All right, so if you want to know, do you need more water? Because that's a good question for dancers. You can use the body pendulum. And you just do a little tug on your hair. If it's all fine, you're not going to move. If you need a little bit of water, your body's going to move somewhere. And that tells you you need a little bit more.
And I don't have hair, so what I do?
Okay, you can pinch on the skin. And it's just a very gentle pinch. Again, if there's no movement, you know you're good. If you have movement, then you need to add some water. And if you're going to add water, you want to take your drink and then just swish it around in your mouth a little bit. And that's going to tell the system that there's water. Mine is actually tea because I don't have water right beside me, but you'd want it to be water, not tea. Tea is not going to be helpful. And then...
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Even tea without anything in it, without sugar, without honey.
Right.
Is that the same?
It still has to be processed. So the body can't just use it. So tea doesn't help.
Thank you.
Case for being hydrated. Yeah. Okay. So what I was going to show you is between the xiphoid process and the belly button, halfway between, if you just rub in there, that will take the water to where the body needs it. And you may notice as you're rubbing that point, all of a sudden it starts to hurt or be tender. That tells you then that water was a good choice. You did need to add more water. Okay, that's a little aside. Thanks, Orya. Okay. All right, is everybody okay with the information so far? Okay. Any questions? Everybody's good? Okay. So the last...
One question.
Yes, go ahead.
When you say structural, mental, nutritional, emotional, and spiritual, that's all 5?
6. Structural,
6.
chemical, nutritional,
Chemical, okay.
mental, emotional, spiritual. 6, sorry, yeah.
Chemical, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So the last thing that I wanted to share in regards to, it's a little bit with emotion, but not so much. Oh, there's 2 things, sorry. One thing I wanted to share, and we lost Elise. I was going to share this for her, but maybe she'll be back on later. If you wanted to work with emotions with dancers and you're working with kids, this is actually even good for adults. I really enjoyed this book. There's a children's book for emotions. It's called The 6 Healing Sounds, Qigong for Children. And I'll just write it in the chat. And it's Lisa Spillane who did this book. And it has the emotions that you experience, the way that you might react because of your emotion, and a sound that you can make. And the sounds come from Qigong. The sound that you can make to release the emotion. So it's a wonderful little book. if you work with preschoolers or elementary school kids. And I did use that book in one of my broadcasts at the beginning of our isolation. And at the moment, it's still only found on my Facebook page for Dance Debut. And if you just go under videos, I recorded a bunch of stories for kids, and that's one of the stories. And I have my little gorilla Tandy as my puppet. So you'll see me holding on to him, and that'll be the one that you'll be looking for if you want to dive into it a little bit more. Okay. So the last part I wanted to share with you then is figure eights, which I did talk a little bit about yesterday. It comes up in the video that I did, or the interview with Mats Melin, because we talk about the figure eight patterns, but also I demonstrate the figure eight pattern above the body. In therapeutic touch, we don't use this pattern, but it's similar to some of the therapeutic touch work. And I just wanted to link up what that means. So yesterday I shared Cook's Hookups, which is a great emotional release, which is why I'm bringing it up again. And so that one is, let's see if I can get it by just sitting back here. Crossing one foot over the other, crossing one hand over the other, linking the fingers. And then you can bring the hands up or you can leave them down, whichever you like. Okay, I'm just going to change the viewpoint there and hold on to that. And your tongue goes to the roof of your mouth. We're making a hookup between the wrists and the ankles that creates a flow of the figure eight. And the figure eight is how information is traveled electrically through our system. And it travels on the outside in the biofield to the inside. It's actually the connector of our outside energy to our inside energy. And the figure eight then connects in with our 5 elements, which are our meridian lines. And so there's a really important little exercise to link the body up. If you were standing, which is how I typically do that with dancers, then you kind of lean and fall over when the body has finished linking it up. So if I was using my body pendulum, I would have crossed my foot over, and then all of a sudden, I would have just moved. So you, in my dance class, you'll see lots of little people all standing hooked up, and then all of a sudden they go boom, 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 and they all fall over. Okay, so that's how you can do that one and use the pendulum to tell you energetically you're connected. And as soon as you move, you're good to go. The second part is putting the feet side by side, toes straight forward, and then the fingertips go in front of the belly button. If I was standing, again, I'd be in the classroom, I would be doing this. The dancers, you'll see the dancers move as soon as that's hooked up. And this is hooking up again those 5 elements to the figure eights. Right. So when they share that technique in some of the other writings, they don't put the body pendulum in, but it's a great way energetically to notice that a shift has occurred and you're done. You don't have to do anything more. Okay, so that gives you that figure eight. But now we could trace a figure eight, because I wanted to talk about what I showed with Mats, is maybe you've got a pain that's coming down the elbow, and so you just want to link up the figure eight pattern that runs from the shoulder to the end of the hand. So you can just take your hand above the arm and trace a figure eight. And you may notice as you go past, even though you're not touching your arm, you may notice the hairs on your arm will stand up as your hand goes past. And that's the energy from the hand connecting with the energy of the other arm. And your hand will know where it needs to go, so you don't have to really worry about directing it. In bioenergetic wellness, we can actually check to see which way, how many times. Do we need to go from the elbow to the wrist? Do we need to go from the fingertip to the shoulder? We can do all that. But a dancer in the classroom doesn't have time for that. So they notice something's not working right, quick sweep. And just trust your intuition, it'll be right. And you'll realign that energy. Okay, so Aurea, since you needed a little bit more time, and it wasn't more time with processing, it was the neck that was the challenge, right? Or is it still the lower back? Okay, so in your mind, just trace that figure 8 right through your hip and just let it trace back and forth, coming from hip through the spine, connecting in the hip through the spine. And if you were working on your neck or spine, just imagine that line and just start tracing it. So I'm gonna, on my neck here, I feel like it needs to go up and down. So it needs to go from the top of my head down to my back. So in my mind, I'm just gonna be drawing a line like this in my mind, up and down the back. And I just,
I think the water trick.
pardon me?
The water did the trick,
The water did the trick.
like you said.
Wonderful.
And it's fine now. Yep.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. So simple, and I didn't think to share it. Thank you. Okay, so if you've traced those figure of 8s, now just check in and see how things are feeling. Yeah,
Yep. It's good.
excellent. Okay. All right, those are all the pieces I wanted to share today. And again, I know it's a lot of information. I want to just open minds to thinking differently about how we approach what we do and how we do it, and the value that the emotions have in our lives, and how we can use them to our advantage rather than to our disadvantage, which is pocketing them and getting tighter and tighter. So if there's any questions on anything we did yesterday, anything from today, anybody want to ask anything else? Nope. Okay. Then I think that's where we'll leave it for today. Your head swimming with ideas. I released the one interview this morning. I have several things to load up on my very slow internet, so I will do my best to post as I can, so just please keep checking back. And thank you for passing it forward to anybody else you think might be able to benefit. I appreciate you sharing. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. So,
See you then.
okay,
And thank
you.
Thank you.
you're very
Thank you,
welcome.
ma'am.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right,
Thank you.
have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
I guess for you guys, have a good sleep.
Yes.
Probably, yeah. Have a good sleep, yeah. I have to choose between you